Was I coming in with some spice? Was that like...
No.
Really, the sun is pretty much the scariest part. Damn, that was sick. My name is Brian Cahal. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Folsom, California, and I've been racing mountain bikes as a pro for the past 5 years. During that time, I definitely haven't had much success, and I've certainly fallen short of my goals. I've had to learn the hard way that it's going to take a lot more work than I've done in the past to get to where I want to be. This year, I feel like I'm finally in a position where I can invest in my racing and put in the work needed to get the results I think I'm capable of. My goal for this series is to show you guys a unique perspective on racing through my eyes as I try and establish myself as a pro mountain biker. I haven't quite figured this racing thing out yet, but I hope through sharing my story I can prevent you guys from making some of the same mistakes I did and share some of the lessons I've learned this year as I go racing.
He's talking like a lot more. He doesn't usually meow like this. You okay, buddy?
He was left here a few tenants ago at this place. This is his house. I'm just living in his space. I try and give him some pets every once in a while to make up for it. I definitely didn't grow up thinking that, I wanted to be a pro mountain biker. Like, I didn't even know that mountain biking was a legitimate sport until I got into high school and met some friends and, found this entire world of mountain biking. Like, growing up as a kid, the main reason I rode my bike was because I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And you can't go, fly planes as an 8-year-old, but you can go jump your bike in your front yard off an X Factor ramp. So that was my main motivation for riding for quite a while. And then I rode dirt bikes with my family, just trails, not on tracks or anything like that. But that was really where I built the majority of my bike skills as a kid, was just riding dirt bikes with my family and hitting sketchy jumps around town. And it wasn't until I got into high school and met a group of friends that I really discovered mountain biking, the sport. And once I did that, I was pretty sold, and kind of dropped everything, like sold my Xbox, and ended up having $1,000 to spend on my first real mountain bike, and bought a 2008 Transition dirt bag. And then that just consumed my life for a little bit. Like, we would just be building trail, shooting videos, riding every day after school. And I look back on that time as just a really fun time in my riding, where I was progressing at such a high rate and everything was brand new to me. We started to focus more and more on the video side of things, and that became almost my main motivation for getting better on the bike, was to shoot better and better video parts. We would always shoot videos that were way over my head, and I would have to rise to the level of where I wanted to be. Like, in the video, I was doing stuff for the first time, really pushing myself for those videos. A couple years down the road, I was definitely progressing a lot, and I started to get some more confidence, to the point where I wanted to take that into racing. And I had dabbled in a few races in the early days, but right around when I was 17 is when I did, I think, my first full-ish season of racing. And went straight into junior expert. And then after my junior X year, where I kind of got my feet wet, I definitely wasn't ready to take the step up to pro. I went into Cat 1, and I should have won every race I entered in Cat 1, but the theme of that season was crash and get fourth. So I was already riding way above my head. Managed to scrap up a few podiums and some all right results, and then the next year, I had my mindset going to pro. So I graduated high school, and then that summer I didn't really have anything going on. I got rear-ended on the way to a race, so I got some insurance cash in the bank, which was sick. So I was like, screw it, dude, we're gonna go live in Bellingham. Found a room for $300 a month, knew no one up there, and just moved to Bellingham by myself. And then Bellingham's 3 hours away from Whistler, so I pretty much just ended up living in Whistler for the summer. And that was my first year pro. I was just living by myself for the first time, and that was, to this day, best summer of my life. Couldn't ask for much more, just riding the Whistler bike park almost every day. And you can't help but get better on the bike doing that. So like the first race of that season, I got absolutely smoked. And by the end, I got like a mid-pack finish at a BC Cup at Panorama. And I was feeling like I could like start to be at least kind of in the game in the pro field. And my riding was definitely progressing a lot during that time. I was actually scheduled to leave Whistler right before Crankworx that year to start school at my community college, and I really wasn't too pumped on that. So I ended up hiring my good friend that kind of looks like me to sit in to my classes while I went and raced Crankworx, and I ended up making like the main event for Solemn and made it on TV, even though I got like knocked out first round. And yeah, once I got back to school, no one really seemed to notice. So yeah, I was pretty stoked on that move. Going into the next summer, had a little bit more confidence with my racing. So had some ambitious race goals. I think me and my friend Liam, we were going to do the entire GRT series and started out with a trip to Whistler. Once we got to Whistler, like it's almost impossible to leave. So we ended up spending another week there, and I was feeling real good on the bike, and it all kind of just fell apart from multiple angles. I had a big crash and ended up having an injury that took me out for the season. Our van blew up, and then my buddy Liam, like he got hurt a week later. So that was definitely kind of a kick in the nuts. So the next season, I'm committed to going racing again. The culmination for that season was a big Europe trip. We hit Crankworx Innsbruck and Crankworx Leger. That was kind of where my relationship with racing started to sour a little bit. So the filming thing has been going pretty well for me. And while I was over there, I was doing the Vital Raws. So I was filming A practice, riding B practice, and then filming A practice, riding B practice again. And that was kind of how it was for the day's practices. And I just ended up getting absolutely smoked at the races, and just seeing how fast the guys were at the highest level. I just knew that I really had nothing for them, and I was making more money filming than I would have ever have racing anyway. And then the cherry on top was just like we rode Morzine and just sick bike parks in France for 3 days after the races, and I was just like, this was way better than just being stressed out for 2 weeks just riding 2 tracks. I just had like the best time of my life just riding for fun. After that, my focus turned elsewhere, and I kind of gave up on racing at a professional level at that point. I started to dabble with some casual enduro races, and I ended up actually getting some all right results, and it started to fire me up again a little bit. I got like a top 5 stage at TDS, and then at the EWS qualifier at North Star, I won Boondocks against like Richie and Curtis. So maybe it was just I wasn't as stressed out and I was just riding better, but it started to make me think I could actually do something with racing again. So that brings us into last year, which was my first full season racing enduro. It was a huge learning experience for me. It's kind of funny thinking back now, but going into that first race at China Peak, I legitimately thought I could be a podium guy. I ended up getting like 23rd or something like that. It was definitely a huge ego check right off the bat, but it forced me to take a step back and look at racing as a whole and just ask myself, what am I doing wrong here? Because I knew I wasn't getting my best performance at the races, and I was missing something. So I just tried to go through everything from bike setup to training to mindset to just really improve my performance on the bike. And it took a couple of races, but by the time I got to Big Sky, I was able to get a 15th, which I was really happy with given the field, and then backed it up with another 15th at BME Trestle and an 8th at Ashland. I was pretty happy with how the season wrapped up, and I had never even like finished that many race runs without crashing. So that was a huge milestone for me. And I think the main reason for that, and definitely my biggest takeaway from last season, was just accepting where I was at as a rider in the race. I think in the past I had always like believed that I could be competitive and fight for podiums and eventually wins, but I held myself to that standard at every race I went to and didn't give myself time to develop as a rider. And I would always push myself to a level that was unsustainable and like inevitably fall short of that goal. You know, that's something I've had to learn from. And going into this next season, I'm approaching just my whole goal setting strategy differently. You know, I legitimately think I could be competitive on the EWS circuit, and that's the ultimate goal, but I know that's not going to happen overnight. So I've committed to a 3-year plan to achieve that goal, and this next season is the first step in that process. You know, I've never been in a position to really put in the work and prepare myself adequately to go racing at that level, so I'm committed to doing that for the next 3 years, and I'm excited to bring you guys along for the ride for this season. And I really hope I can pass along some insider knowledge that'll help you guys out at your local races. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a good year. Really what I'm after is just the mental confidence going into this season. Kind of like,
Bling bling.
You actually might be kind of stronger in that than the ideal position, which is weird, but it's why we train it in the gym, keeping you crunched up. You didn't even know how to stick your butt out.